Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am absolutely delighted to share with you some insights regarding current government details about return to work. And very pleased to have Scottish Business Network member Stephen Lynch joining us today, who's probably spent the last 24 hours reading through the 50 pages of the government document detail of how we can, here in England, return safely to work. But as Stephen and I have been discussing, there will be a return to work soon in Scotland, Wales and Ireland. And we wanted to take this opportunity to share Stephen's insight and some thoughts that he has around what businesses need to be thinking about in this new normal. Also to share some details around innovation in this area. So Stephen, welcome. Delighted to have you join us here for this webinar.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you very much indeed. It's a pleasure, as always.
Great. Stephen, if you can introduce your role within your business and a wee bit about the history of Cleanology.
Yeah, absolutely, Christine. So basically, I'm the sales director for the business. The business is actually, it's now in its 20th anniversary. So we were very happily celebrating our 20th birthday this year when the world changed, and literally the world did change overnight. It seemed that way. So 20 years we've been in existence. We have probably 90% of our presence, which is somewhere in the region of 400 corporate clients. We are a business-to-business environment company, and we only do corporate clients. Two bases that we service at this point in time, London and Manchester. The Manchester environment came about pretty much because our London-based customers asked us, could we support them in Manchester because they were struggling to find the quality of service that we provide for them in the London area. And we do provide a very high quality of service. It's based on 3 or 4 key points. One is attention to detail, and attention to detail is always key critical, more so now than ever before, in terms of cleaning an office environment or cleaning any workplace environment for that matter, whether it be hospitality or any other environment. It's key critical. And more so now than it ever has been before. So we've grown from strength to strength over those that 20 years, and indeed grown from literally 0 customers up to 400. We currently turn over somewhere in the region of £11 million per year. So we're not a large business. I would say we're a mid-sized business, and as I said, 90% of our customer base sits within the London area. Our specialities are corporate offices, retail environments, restaurants, any hospitality, and we provide day-to-day cleaning. Contractors go in, and whether that be during office hours, after office hours, sometimes during the evening, sometimes during the night, to clean environments and get them ready for customers or staff the next working day.
Thank you, Stephen. A great summary there. Regarding Cleanology and your expertise in the cleaning sector, as you say, you cover a number of business areas there who are all critically affected by COVID-19 and virus. What is the key message you are sharing now with employers in any sector regarding preparation for return to work and this transition to the new normal?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Christine. The government produced a document yesterday that's 60 pages thick. I'll not talk you through it, but I have gone through it, and I'll pull out some of the key points for you. So basically, firstly, each employer needs to conduct a risk assessment on their business, and that's a COVID-19 risk assessment, and that's looking at various different things. So who should go to work? Who should continue to stay from home, work from home? Social distancing at work, and how do you manage that aspect? Managing your customers, your visitors, and indeed the contractors, people who are in and moving in and out of your office space. And indeed cleaning of the workplace environment, because previously perhaps people had one cleaner coming in or a number of cleaners coming in one point throughout the day. Well, that's no longer acceptable. Everywhere needs to be disinfected. High touch points need to be looked at on a regular basis. Personal protective equipment for staff, and indeed staff who are commuting to and from work. Now, particularly I'm speaking about, London-based staff or anybody who needs to get on a tube, a bus, any shared commute environment. That's something to think about, sort of go forward. Personally speaking, I travel in and out of Bank Station, and not unusual for me to stand at Bank Station 4 deep squeezing my way on a tube. Let's just say it doesn't fill me with excitement the way it used to do. So there's cause for concern. That needs to be looked at as well. Workforce management, and indeed inbound and outbound goods. So how do you go about that? Basically, what you need to break it down, and I've broken it down in terms of cleaning. Firstly, you need to make sure that the office is disinfected, because a lot of people will be going back to work after 7 weeks of the office being empty. We're human beings. The first thing that you do when you walk into an environment, you look around. If everything looks okay, you feel comfortable. Maybe you smell. And if it smells musty because it's not been aired and it's not been freshly cleaned, then that gives you cause for concern. And go forward, well-being is going to be a word that's going to be used an awful lot for staff moving in and around, commuting in and out of their office environment. You need to check that the ventilation is adequate, and is the ventilation working properly? Air conditioning units, the filters been changed? Has it recently been checked by the engineer to make sure that it's appropriate and it's in good working order? Open doors, open windows where you can, not always possible, but certainly where you can, to get the fresh air circulating throughout the building, whatever the work environment is. And then a deep clean. And I would recommend that preparing an office for people moving back in, you need to be looking at a deep clean from the carpets through to the lights, everything within that office surface. Now, obviously that sounds easy. It can be a wee bit difficult to do because people tend to have a lot of clutter in their desks. And that's something that's part of the risk assessment. It's going to have to stop doing. It's going to have to be a clear desk policy go forward. And employers are going to have to really insist that employees have a responsibility that when they leave the office at night, or they make sure that they take everything away from their desk so as their environment can be cleaned and disinfected for them starting the next working day. So that kind of leads on to the whole risk assessment element and how you disinfect an office.
Sorry, carry on, Stephen.
Yeah, so one area that we're looking at is office disinfection process, because they have been, workplaces in general, have been left dormant, empty for 6, 8, 10 weeks. In areas of Scotland, it could well be 2 or 3 months before anybody's walking back into that office environment again. So it needs to be proper. It needs to be properly disinfected. We've looked at a product, and we looked at many products. The product that we've brought to market is actually a dry fogging spray. And it's a disinfectant that kills coronavirus, other things like MRSA, common flu, and many others as well. It is applied through a trigger mechanism that controls the spray, either a fine spray or a fogging. So it's ideal for covering every surface within a working environment. The good news is it's alcohol-free, it's safe in the skin, it's non-irritant, non-staining, non-corrosive, and it is actually safe to use in kitchen surfaces as well. So if it's ingested accidentally, there'll be no harm there whatsoever. It's a dry fog and completely disappears within 10 minutes of impact, but does last on the surface for a considerable time. So if you put all of those things together, then you're creating a nice environment for your staff walking back through the office door or the workplace door.
And this isn't a one-off, Stephen. I mean, you have clearly articulated here in England, and particularly in London, there is this return to work situation at the moment. In Scotland, as you say, it could be another 2-3 months before people back into the office. But what you're advising here and what through this risk assessments is not, this isn't a one-off. This will have to be part of a regular cycle within a office or the working environment. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%, Christine. So basically, if you look at a typical office environment, you would perhaps have, say, 4 or 5 cleaners who would come in first thing in the morning from 5 a.m. till 8 a.m. and they would clean the office environment. Typically, that would be that for the rest of the day. The government guidelines and what was produced yesterday, that is no longer sufficient. That must be increased so that cleaning is conducted throughout the working day. So basically the recommendation from ourselves would be that you look at day cleaning of some sort. Now this would be a uniformed individual, and I say uniformed because if your staff members and your colleagues see somebody walking around with a uniform on, disinfectant, cleaning the high touch points on a regular basis, such as kitchen surfaces, door handles, toilets, entrance areas, if they're cleaning them on a regular basis, it's going to add to that well-being and that peace of mind to think, yeah, my employer's doing their best to look after me here. So that's going to have to be throughout the whole day now. And also things like the disinfectant fogging process, that shouldn't be a one-off either. That should be something that should be conducted perhaps once a week. And certainly if there's any confirmed coronavirus cases within the workplace, then you need to close the workplace and disinfect everything again and start the process over again. So it's continual and it needs to be looked at in a different light.
So it's a very visible cleaning here, and cleaning was something that we just assumed happened in our workplace, as you say, Stephen, overnight. But this new is this regulation, is this a fundamental requirement of any employer now as part of the new guidance?
Yeah, well, the government will stop short of saying it's a fundamental requirement. What they have said is a fundamental requirement is that you conduct a risk assessment of your office. Okay, so they're putting the onus back on the employer. You need to create a safe environment, and within that safe environment, they are recommending that you clean more regularly, you disinfect more regularly to keep the environment safe for your staff than you do at this moment in time, which obviously leaves it a bit open, but leaves the employer liable as well. So my advice would always be make sure you cover yourself completely and add to what you already do at this point in time. So if you've got something that says, well, we did this before, yeah, and we've added this, and this since then to protect our employees. And that's something you're going to have to communicate regularly with your employees as well, because you want them to be comfortable. You want them to come into a productive environment. And you know yourself, if you're motivated, you feel you're looked after, you're going to be far more productive than you would be. You're walking in thinking, nothing's changed here. We still get the same cleaning regime as we had before, albeit the government guidelines are suggesting that should be increased. So they've not dictated, they have suggested, they have dictated that a risk assessment must be completed, and that risk assessment must be put out there for all to see, all the staff members to see.
Right, and that risk assessment, is that available online? Is that on a government website, Stephen?
Yeah, so it is available as part of this document, and the guidelines, and an example of the certificate is on there as well.
Right. So anyone, if they go on to the government website, look under COVID-19, they will see from an English standpoint, and we have to make this absolutely clear, for those businesses in England, this is the requirements that are being put forward, and this is a risk assessment. But from your point of view, you reckon that what is included there, Stephen, will likely be the same as in the devolved Scotland, Ireland, Northern Ireland and Wales?
Yeah, well, common sense would dictate that would be the case, Christine. I mean, it's the coronavirus doesn't care whether it's in Scotland, England, Wales, or Northern Ireland. So the steps and measures to protect ourselves and our employees, you would think would be equal everywhere. And certainly from that point of view, organisations in Scotland, I would point them, if the Scottish Government has not released this yet, then I would certainly point them that direction. There's no harm in reading up beforehand. There's no harm in getting ahead of the game. If there's more that has to be done, if Nicola decides that actually we're going to take it another step and go further, then at least you're part way down that road. But I would say better to be prepared, have a look and see what's there. If it applies, great. If it doesn't, then you wait and see what Nicola and the government put out.
Yeah, but the core elements from your knowledgeable insight into this industry, the core elements will be there across all administrations.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. And it's fine detail. It covers things like, nice to have that were previously in the office and work environment, such as, putting out shared fruit bowls or shared sweetie jars. That's going to have to stop. You can't do that anymore. It's unfortunate, but you just can't do that anymore. Things like replacing cutlery and kitchenware with disposable options. I'm not suggesting for a second we go back to horrible plastic knives and forks, but you may want to consider things like wooden knives and forks, that type of thing. And again, space planning, where either put perspex screens up between desks or working environments so that the contact, if not 2 metres, then you have done absolutely your best as an employer to assess that risk and mitigate that risk and put something in place.
Stephen, just when you were talking there and you talked about goods in and goods out, one of the key goods in, possibly for particularly opening up an office environment here in England, will be so many people have been working from home until now and they've been provided with laptops, etc. That will then be brought back into the workplace. Is there advice around that? Or again, from your own expertise, Stephen, what would your advice be for me as the employee coming back into the shared office space in London?
Yeah, I would always say that, certainly for the commute, look at personal protection equipment, PPE. So I would be looking at things like alcohol gel. So the World Health Organization recommends that you should use something that's at least 60% alcohol based. So you should have that with you. Carry that in your pocket, in your briefcase, in your handbag. You should also carry wipes, disinfectant wipes, so that you can wipe any surfaces that you're not sure about touching. Absolutely, face mask and gloves. Now, face mask, does it prevent all of that sort of stuff? I think there's 2 things to consider, Christine. There's peace of mind, and have I done all I can to protect myself in my journey in? So personally speaking, during my commute, I'm going to have gloves on and I'm going to have a face mask on. And that would be, my recommendation to anybody else who's going into the office. As far as walking through the office door, our recommendation is that you have a sanitisation station at the entrance to the office. And that would include things like gloves, it would include face masks, certainly hand gel to cleanse, and also something that may be overlooked is things like a disinfectant bin for taking off, your PPE gear and somewhere to put it that can be disposed of properly. So it's thinking about things in a common sense way. What can I do to protect myself in my commute? And what I expect to see when I walk through the workplace door.
And wipe down your laptop if you've been using it at home before you go in, before you leave. Wipe it down, as you say, using the disinfectants. And then I expect when you get into the office after the 7-8 weeks away, there will be some policy there about wiping down the products before you can use them in a shared space. Stephen, do you see that? Is that part of the risk assessment?
Yeah, that'll be part of the risk assessment, Christine. So again, it'll be a case of when you come into an environment, it may well be that employers provide an area where employees can put bags, coats, jackets, yeah, and then take the items that they need, put them through, sort of the disinfection process, so wiping everything down before they go in and sit in an open office. So, and I would say the reverse of that would, sorry, Christine, I would say the reverse of that would also be true, and something that you need to think about before when you're coming back home at night, and you're walking back into your home environment. If you've got PPE equipment on, then you would want to take that off and maybe have a bin somewhere, that you can dispose of it before you walk through the door, and anything that's on your hands goes into the household environment. So it's equally important at both ends.
Gosh, Stephen, you're giving plenty of food for thought here. I mean, even I'm just picturing the coat stand in the office, and but you're suggesting there that that's in a separate space. Things I'd never even thought about, Stephen. So thank you for that. I get a sense that, cleaning has been something we all have taken for granted. And it was usually only as you were sitting late hours in the office, you'd actually meet your cleaning staff. But what I'm hearing now is that these are individuals, as they should be, will be integral to your office environment. But along with the actual staff, Stephen, I get a sense from you there's been quite significant innovations in this industry. It'd be great if you could share some of these innovations and how relevant they are to our current situation.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of excellent products in the market that's available now. Just one that I spoke to you about was the disinfectant spray. And that is absolutely key critical as we go forward. And not just the disinfection spray itself, but the mechanism for making sure that you can get to hard to reach places. So areas that are difficult to see, difficult to touch, making sure that you completely disinfect an area. There's things like tacky doormats. So when you walk through an office door, because coronavirus can get onto the foot, if you're on a tube, if you're on a bus or whatever. So as you walk through the office door, there are sticky mats that will take away any bacteria or anything that you've got on your foot, and it then makes it safer for you to continue on into the office environment. There are things like door handle sanitizers that you can put on door handles that make the door handles safer to, to touch. Various different places throughout the office, such as the toilets, sort of the washrooms, a vital part, and making sure that you can have an air sanitizing system within the toilet that cleanses the air and makes sure that the air is clean for, sort of taking away any bacteria or any viruses that may be present in the area as well. That's something that needs to be looked at. There's also software available as well, which can tell you that the washroom has been used, for example, 6 times in the last hour, 10 times in the last hour. And you know that from your environment, you would like to have it cleaned after every 5th use, after every 10th use, whatever that may be. And again, within the washroom environment, you have disinfectant spray that you can spray onto toilet paper as you go into a cubicle. And from a personal point of view, make sure that you cleanse the areas before you use or touch them. So the whole office environment, the whole workplace environment has seen many advances in the past years that really do make things much easier, healthier, and easier to maintain in a nutshell.
Good. One of the areas that I know that you work in is the hospitality and the tourism industry, Stephen. And I saw last night on social media, Brewdog had posted a picture about how they were looking to use perspex partitioning in their bars. But what options and ideas can you share with those in the tourism, the hospitality industry, to both ensure safety while also delivering that hospitality experience?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's going to go back to the risk assessment, and each individual environment will be different. It's going to be unique. And it depends on the clientele, it depends on the set out of that environment as to how you, and it could well be that, you know, you remove X number of tables. So the capacity is 50% of the capacity it was before. Yeah. So you're creating that social distancing. And it could well be that everything becomes waitress or waiter service only. So nobody goes to the bar. You could have perspex screens up at the bar area, almost similar to a bank teller system, you know, where everything's behind a perspex screen, and contactless payment only. So the whole industry is going to have to revolutionize itself to deal with this. So I suspect that it's going to be a case of reduced occupancy and putting up perspex, and certainly looking at entrance and exit doors. Most hospitality environments have got a couple of ways in and out. So it may well be that you say, this is the entry point, this is the exit point. Yeah. Social distancing at the washrooms in hospitality is going to be critical as well, because you can no longer go into a packed washroom, you know. So there's going to have to be, you know, something above the door that tells you there's 2 people in at this moment in time, therefore you need to wait at this point until somebody comes back out before somebody can go back in again. So there's going to be lots of areas where they're going to have to look at, and it's going to be complex.
It will indeed, because what you're putting in place there also is the whole behavioural economics of this, Stephen,
Yeah.
and how people are going to react. And I think that's the unknown at the moment. You're talking about going into bank station. I mean, quite frankly, that's horrendous at the best of times, but many people are facing these challenges just about getting out the door and getting back to the working environment. So there's a great deal for all employers across the United Kingdom to be considering at the moment. Stephen, you've given us a great summary of what all employers should be looking like, and I appreciate it's only here in England that we've had this information provided. It is only coming out from Westminster. It's not at the moment applied to Scotland, Northern Ireland or Wales, but your advice is, please, as employers, have a look at the risk assessment information provided by Westminster Government. The core of it will be relevant as you as employers are looking at bringing back your staff in all locations back to the office or the manufacturing environment, and to keep an eye on that. Is there anything else, Stephen, you would like to share on this webinar?
I don't think so, Christine. I think that pretty much covers everything. You know, it really is down to employers and employees taking responsibility for each other and themselves. You know, am I healthy and happy to go to work? Is my work a safe environment? You know, I do need to put food on the table. The economy does need to get going again. So providing everybody conducts their own risk assessment, I think we're in the best place we possibly can be.
Good. Well, great advice. And in these days of fake news and being bombarded with news, thank you for taking the time to tell us it from the cleaning business side of things. And it's good to share that knowledge, Stephen. Many thanks indeed. So as always, wish you and yours good health, and until we actually meet up again physically. Till we meet again, Stephen, all the very best, and thank you for your time today.
You're welcome, Christy. Thank you very much indeed. You take care.